Howdy guys, and welcome to Big Brother 25, and welcome to Cliff Notes, broadcasting a long way away from the Big Brother house, an undisclosed location, but I'll fill you all in over the next couple of days. But it didn't stop me from watching tonight's episode and the live feeds that followed. Night number one, we got 99 to follow up after this, but night number one, we've already got scheming and backstabbing, alliances formed, twist. It was a fun night to start this thing out. I'm so excited. We had to wait longer than we normally do, but the best time of the year is finally here. I'm so excited for Big Brother 25. First night did not let us down. So let's talk about it. We'll talk a little bit about what happened in the episode itself, and then we're going to get into the live feeds itself. Man, night number one, 99 to go. It's gonna be so much fun. All right, let's talk about the episode itself. They spent probably the first third of the episode introducing the 16 house guests to us. I gotta say, watching just a very quick first impression of overall seeing these house guests, there are a lot of smart players playing this game, I feel like. Not that other seasons haven't also had smart players, some not so smart, but it just seems like casting really brought in some smart folks in here. Not all of them. I think a lot of people are going to underestimate some of these players and not understand just how brilliant some of them are. They'll pay the price if they underestimate, but it did seem like a lot of smart players. Now, here's to hoping that as part of that, maybe production this year puts a little bit more focus on some mental competitions and a little less focus on that brute force physical endurance, hardcore physical type competitions. We're going to see a reflection, I think, over the first 24 seasons. And with that, I hope we see a few more competitions from earlier seasons that maybe are a little more fun, intellectual, things like that. I'm really curious to see how the game's going to be played this season, with this assumption that the cast is a little bit on the smart side, which I think is a good thing. I think it's going to make for a lot more strategy and a lot of fun. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the episode itself. We saw the introduction of all the cast members. Now, here's the thing. It seems like most seasons you get a group of 8 people introduced, then they go into the house, then you get the second group of 8 people introduced, then they go in the house. With a live move-in, it's changed a little bit. In this case, we actually had all 16 sitting on the stage at the same time, standing on the stage. Julie talking to them, explaining some of what's going on. So these 16 people, they're not allowed to talk to each other, but they can look around. They can start getting a feel for who else they're going to be playing the game with, which is always fun. But Julie did make a few important points, notices to them. One, she mentioned it is a 100-day season. I'm not sure that they knew that ahead of time. They're in there for a long time. My season was 99. Theirs is 100 days. So they know what it's going to take. Well, they're going to find out. But 100 days, I did notice that they all were very much ready for a competition. During my season, we were all dressed up and fancied up and everything. They knew they were going right into competitions themselves, and competitions were had indeed. So we had that. Now, they saw, as part of the introduction to this season, what we've been seeing for the past few days or so, that little clip of Danielle and Brittany and Frankie breaking into the Big Brother house, trying to activate the time warp laser thing, and it all going badly for them before they flee. They got to see that. I wish we had seen a widescreen shot of all of these house guests while they were watching that clip, because during the introductions, we had a lot of cast members who were saying they're such huge Big Brother fans. They've watched so many seasons and all that. Some probably are. Some, I question it a little bit. It would have been fun to see the widescreen shot and see who actually recognized these 3 former Big Brother players and who was scratching their head wondering what in the heck were those people doing. But we didn't see that. We saw tight shots of a few of the cast members who are big fans, America, for example. So, yeah, I still don't know for certain if they all are truly Big Brother fans. There are a few of them recruits and maybe not as familiar with the show itself. But they did see that little clip. Julie mentioned what had been kind of suspected here over the past few days on social media, that time laser warp has created 4 multiverses consisting of a comic multiverse, a humiliverse, sounds kind of unique, doesn't it? A scary multiverse and a scramble multiverse. And she mentions with that theme of 4 different multiverses, there's going to be 4 separate competitions that are taking place this evening. So these 16 house guests are going to be split up into groups of 4 competing in these 4 competitions. Sure don't think I'd be the one picking if I had the choice to compete in the Humiliverse competition. Sounds like maybe not something that you're going to enjoy too much, but she does say y'all are going to be picking. As it turns out, what they're going to do is 4 at a time are going to be sent into the backyard through the house. Each of them has to pick a different one of the 4 competitions. Then the next 4 come in, they each pick a different one until you've filled up 4 people per slot. You get it, right? So the first group of 4 goes into the house. I gotta say, I still remember what an incredible feeling when you walk into that house for the first time. You're suddenly on the other side of the cameras. You see the cameras up everywhere. You see the kitchen, the house. It really hits home at that point in time. I remember when I did it, I was so overwhelmed by the house, but at the same time, I'm trying to remember who are these other people. Remember, we've seen the cast introductions here for a few days. This is their first chance to see everyone. They're trying to figure out names and everything. It is an overwhelming experience. So cool to see them going through it. But they each go in groups of 4, go into the backyard, pick their particular spots until we've got sorted out. So let's talk about the backyard and the competitions. It's fun. There's newspaper clipping, big newspaper kind of carpeting on the ground with all kinds of incorrect headlines as a result of that time warp laser. I saw some Nashville and Halloween got married. Who could they be talking about, right? Yeah, we know. Hosea, the mastermind. That's right? Kazar, they mentioned Kazar winning his second All-Star title. So a lot of things. I like the fact that production seems like they're going to kind of poke fun at a lot of past Big Brother events and people and everything else. You got to have fun, right? That's fun. I hope they continue to do some of that. So let's talk about the competitions itself. The first competition is in the Scramble universe. And this is what we find out. Because everything is twisted around from past seasons, normally, remember, was it 23 who you were competing to have the winner from each competition? They all competed then to have the HOH, which Frenchie won. That worked out well for him, didn't it? Yeah, he had the opportunity. Now, everything's changed around this season. Instead of competing to advance to try to win the HOH and etc., this is a competition that you can't lose, because whoever loses each of these 4 competitions is nominated for eviction in week number 1. 4 people on the block, at least for right now. 4 people on the block. That changes everything, right? A lot of people saying, I don't want to, I want to throw the first one. I don't want to win HOH and everything else. Well, you got to compete a little bit harder if you know that the loser is nominated for eviction. It also means that you can potentially play for HOH, because it may allow you to consolidate some power. It may allow you to show others that you are a strong enough player that you can contribute to an alliance. But if the nominations have already been made, it may mean that there's not as much blood on your hands either. We don't know yet, because we haven't had the HOH competition. As Julie pointed out, nominations take place before the HOH competition in this wacky, crazy, upside-down world that is Big Brother or Stranger Things, one or the other. Maybe a little bit of both. But the first competition is going to be the Scramble universe, and again, the loser is immediately nominated for competition. This one consists of a puzzle that's already put together. Each of the 4 house guests has to take it apart, run across the yard with the pieces, reassemble it inside a rectangular box so that it forms a cube itself. The person who does it in the slowest amount of time, automatically up for nomination. And as it turns out, Jared, Siri's son, is the one that can't complete it as quick as the other 3. So Jared is our first nominee for eviction this week. The next competition we've got is a Humiliverse. What a weird competition. Remember I said I wouldn't want to do this one? They basically, all 4 of these house guests have to pull on a bar, and every time they pull on the bar, there's a big shoe that kicks them in the rear end. Whoever can pull the bar quickest and kick themselves 100 times first wins. The person who gets to 100 last is up for eviction. A weird competition. Well, as it turns out, I haven't memorized all this, so forgive me for reading these notes a little bit. But as it turns out, the Humiliverse competition, Kirsten, the Houston girl, Kirsten, loses that competition. So now we've got Jared and Kirsten up for nomination. The next competition is the comic verse. This is a competition where you've got a big old ball of goop in the middle. You've got to plumb up some wires, some pipes that are geometrically different from each other. It's a puzzle. You gotta figure out which ones go where so that you can connect the start to the finish of all these different connectors. They have that competition, and the loser of that competition is Felicia. Oh, the worst thing you want to be the older person, already feeling like you got a target on your back. Now you're up for nomination. I know what it's like to be the oldest person and up for nomination for eviction on week number 1. Felicia has done the same thing. She's got some work to do this week if she's gonna save herself and stay in that house for a little bit longer. But Felicia is the third person nominated. And now we get the final competition, the scary verse. And this one is indeed scary because it's not just I'll tell you that. It's not just for another nomination. We are now told that whoever loses this competition is going to get pulled into this cave of netherworld, and we don't know when we'll see him back. My season, David was banished on day number 1. We weren't sure when we were going to see him back. I imagine something similar taking place here. So not only do you run a risk of being nominated for eviction, but you may be out of the house as well. So the competition itself, it's an endurance competition. It's kind of funny. It's like the wall competition, except the wall is horizontal. Everyone's having to hold on to some rock climbing kind of handles while there's a big old hand attached to everyone's leg that's pulling them back. It's tough to see, but I'm sure the tension was growing throughout the whole competition. So basically, a laying down competition. I'm sure Big D, Derek Frazier's wishing they had a few laying down competitions during his season, but it wasn't to be. But we have it this season. The tension keeps building up. We had Riley competing against 3 guys. I was a little bit worried for her. She does all right because the person who lets go first gets pulled into the netherworld cave is Corey, our youngest player, our 21-year-old. So not only is he our 4th player, our final player up for nomination, Corey now disappears into the netherworld. Who knows when we'll see him again? So yeah, that was a little rough for him. I hate first day evictions, banishments, anything like that. But with all that being said, the twists aren't over. A lot of you probably have heard. Some of you maybe haven't heard. The house guests all go back into the house. There's someone waiting for them. Someone that a lot of us know. Yeah, it's Sari from Survivor, Sari from Traitors. Sari, whose son Jared is a house guest in the house. Sari is in there pouring champagne for everyone. Incredible. I'm not sure who recognized her, who didn't. I know a few people did. I'm sure Corey did. I think Izzy did. I think Jared probably recognized his mom as well. So a lot of people did. There's no hiding it. And Sari does not try to hide it because word gets around quickly. So she said, yeah, Sari from Survivor. That's how the episode ends. We had to wait a few hours for the feeds to come back on. The feeds actually came back on about 10:56 Big Brother time, so around 11 o'clock or so. About an hour and a half later than I think we'd been told they'd start, but they probably had to practice a little more. No singing, don't talk about production, all that kind of stuff. But the feeds came back on about right before 11 o'clock Big Brother time, Pacific Coast time. The first thing we see is a lot of them, Matt and a few others, maybe Luke, I can't remember, talking about, are there mics in the bathroom? Are there mics in the shower? Wondering how the live feeds work. Luke was suggesting that the live feeds are only one camera at a time. I'm not sure if he really thinks that or he's just trying to screw with the other house guests. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of talk about, there's a lot of recognition that now they're mic'd up, they're on cameras. Do they have any privacy whatsoever? No, you don't. None whatsoever. You better get used to it because if you're lucky, you're going to spend 3.5 months getting used to it. But they are talking about it at the start. It's hard to watch this first night because so many people in the house, 16 people in there to start with because Corey's missing. 16 people in the house, lots of talking over each other. It's just hard to follow sometimes, but we got into it. We figured out a lot of it. I did notice pretty quickly some conversations going on. The house already knows that Red is famous on TikTok. I can't remember who was talking to him, but Red was saying, yeah, it's me drinking corn whiskey and things like that. Suddenly I got 100,000 views on TikTok. So people know that Red is a bit of a personality on social media. I feel like that maybe is a little bit dangerous. People are going to be maybe a little nervous about having a celebrity in the house like that. And Red's a celebrity, right? Or a character, at least. So they do know about that. At one point early in the live feeds, we get a lot of women in the comic room, not really talking about strategy, but sometimes early, it's not even about what they're saying, but who's hanging out with who in each room. And I did notice a lot of women in the comic room. Cameron was in that room too. Is Cameron going to try to work with the women a little bit? Maybe. We'll find out, because he's hanging out in there. But he also then goes into the scary room with Jag and Matt were in there. And so he's a lot of people go into a lot of different rooms trying to make sure they're part of every single conversation. That's what you've got to do on night number one. It's a long, long night. And we're seeing it this evening as well. All right, we have, surprise, 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 Corey, who got banished to the netherworld. That netherworld must have just been out on the other side of the Big Brother wall, because it didn't last long. Corey's already back. Corey's up in the have-not room, I think, if I remember. I was afraid he was going to be out of the house for a long time, such as my season with David. No, it wasn't to be. He had just enough time. We don't know, because it was a few hours before the feeds came back on, but it doesn't seem like he was gone that long. But I did hear some conversations from a few people already wondering what happened with Corey while he was not inside the house. Has he gained some kind of superpower that no one knows about? Man, you're out of the house for 5 seconds and people get paranoid about what's going on and all of that. We'll see. I think Corey, being up for nomination, is already in a precarious position. If people start suspecting that maybe he's got some extra advantage, that's not going to help him any at all. But Corey is back after just a few hours. Apparently, he's up in have-not room. And over the course of the evening, I figured out it sounds like the 4 people that are up for, that are have-nots, not up for nomination. The 4 people that are have-nots are Corey, Luke, Jared, and Hassam. So 4 guys up there keeping an eye on each other, and they're going to be the have-nots. Doesn't appear that it's kicked in yet. They're still allowed warm showers and eating whatever food they want. I'm sure it'll start up tomorrow, but we've got those 4 guys as the first have-nots of our season. Some of them are talking a little bit, saying, yeah, we're going to rotate have-nots, so 4 new people. And it sounds like it was a voluntary type system instead of people getting picked. So 4 people volunteered. It's these 4 guys. Get it out of the way, get the slop out of the way, and then give it to someone else on down the road. So we do have our have-nots already. Now, we have a few conversations taking place. I've tried to keep these in chronological order to some degree, but there may be a few that are off. We've got Hassam and Jared and Red talking in the kitchen. Hassam is saying, you know, right now I think people are just getting to know each other. I don't think anyone's really playing the game so much or playing that hard just yet. Jared's quick to point out, said, yeah, you think? You sure about that, Hassam? And Hassam's like, well, do you think they're playing hard? Yeah. Jared knows they are. He's been a part of a couple of these conversations. We've already had an alliance formed tonight. We're going to talk about it. So, yeah, they are playing hard. If Hassam thinks that alliances have and relationships haven't already started forming, he better get on the boat real quick, because things are happening all over this house. It's hard when there's 16 people to get any kind of privacy, to have conversations with other people. Isn't always easy, but it still manages to happen, and it happened this time as well. So we've got Jared setting him straight on that. Felicia, I think Felicia's going to be fun in this house. Felicia's complaining about how cold it is in the house. She's walking around with this big blanket pulled over her. She reminds me of Audrey from a few seasons back when she had a week or so. She wasn't feeling real great and real friendly and had a blanket all wrapped around her. Felicia's similar. She's got the blanket wrapped around her because she's so cold. She's wearing it all over the house. Not a summer show this year. God, it was so hot in the house my season. Maybe not so much this year, because we hear a few other people talking about it. Blue at one point mentions that she came in with a suitcase that weighed 75 pounds, and yet she still managed not to have a single hoodie. So I think she's a little bit cold as well. So yeah, a little chillier in the house this year. I guess they got the AC cranked way up. I kind of would have liked that my season. We've got Jared and Kirsten talking. Remember, both of these people are nominated or on the block. They're talking. It looks like they're going to be watching out for each other. Not a ride or die final two. Nothing like that's happened yet. Just them giving each other advice, and it sounds like they're going to be keeping an eye on each other and trying to help each other out a little bit. So that's Jared and Kirsten talking. Kirsten is talking about the fact that Luke just hadn't been talking to her. She's not getting great vibes from him. Jared's kind of feeling the same thing about Bowie as well. So they're talking about who they like, maybe who they don't work with as much right now. It could change, but we'll see. They're talking a lot of strategy about how forceful they should be talking to other people, how laid back they should be around the house, things like that. Talk about that. Now, Jared had an interesting point. Jared said, look, I think our best way to survive, figure out who the most popular person in this house is, and let's make sure we're friends with that person so they'll protect us. And right now, Jared thinks that person is Riley. And it seems like that could be the case. She seems like she's always involved in conversations with a lot of people. So Jared's thinking if they need to really make sure they're attached to Riley as much as possible to save himself this week. We've got Luke talking to Jag, saying, or Blue, I'll take that back. Blue talking to Jag, saying that she's a morning person. The reason I point this out, she referenced during that conversation waking up early while she was in sequester. She mentioned that she was in sequester for 2 weeks. I was there for about a week. They had 2 weeks, apparently, and I heard other people mention 2 weeks as well. They were away from other people for a long period of time. Now suddenly you're in a house where you can't get away from anyone. You talk a lot. It's just a whole different experience from what they've experienced for the past couple of weeks. So we did have that. I mentioned that alliances formed quickly. I bet the feeds hadn't been on for 15 minutes. It seems like it was very quick. We do have our first alliance. It's an alliance of Jared, Kirsten. Remember those two talking together. Jared and Kirsten and Riley, the person they want to be friends with, Matt and Luke. They were in the gym, if I recall, and I say 15 minutes, it is later than that, but the five of them were in the gym. They decided to form an alliance. I'm not sure if they've named it or not. There's some talk, but I don't know if there's really an official name. I gotta say, I don't know that this is necessarily long-term. I think it's just people feeling like they need to have some connections quickly. I don't know that it'll last. Maybe so. But we do have our first formal alliance, 5-person alliance. Not the only one we're going to have develop, though, as we go into it. All right, we've got Matt at one point has talked about the fact that he's told other people that he's hearing impaired. He hadn't tried to hide it or anything else. But he has mentioned, I wasn't sure about this before hearing him talk about that he can hear with hearing aids. He can hear when he's having a one-to-one conversation with someone else. He does not know how to sign. I don't think he's told anyone that he knows how to read lips, but apparently his big issue is if there's a lot of people talking all at the same time in a room, or the overhead conversations where he doesn't necessarily know that someone is talking. Those are things he might miss, but one-on-one conversations and such, it doesn't seem like it's going to impact him at all. No, I'm not worried at all about Matt. Not this week. I think he's going to do pretty well, but he does talk about that a little bit. We've got Siri and Nicole, and apparently Nicole, I think if I understand this right, they keep referring to Mimi, and I think they're talking about Nicole. So we've got our first nickname of the season as well. But we've got Siri and Nicole talking about their own little alliance. I don't know if they've used that word yet, but they might as well, because they're talking about the two of them working together along with Felicia and Kirsten. So a group of 4. And then Siri talking about how each of those 4 then needs to get their +1. Does it remind you of any past alliances where people tried to get a +1? Yeah, Tiffany Mitchell, I'm talking about you. Siri does have this idea. 4 core people, they each have their +1. That's 8, which should be enough to carry a majority, depending on what happens with vetoes and all that. But should be enough to carry them through, make sure that they send home who they want to send home, protect who they want to protect as well. So they are talking about that. And they also, we know that Siri's going to be watching out for Jared, right? You would hope so. So I think Jared could also be included as part of that group as well, kind of on the down low. But Felicia has already come in as Siri and said, maybe we ought to add Jared to it as well. So maybe it's 4 plus +1s plus an extra one as well. You could have 9 people in this alliance. which is a lot of people for an alliance. I know what big alliances are like, but they've got the idea to do it, and we'll see if it sticks or not. So Felicia has suggested including Jared. They do talk about Corey talking about, I think Jared talks to Siri at one point. Nicole talked to Siri at one point, talking about that they really think Corey is a bit of a genius, that he knows a lot that he's not necessarily revealing. He's a lot smarter that he's letting on. Corey is on their radar, and especially with Corey already being up for nomination, again, that's just not a good position for Corey, because he's attracted their attention. It did not help that Corey had a little conversation with Siri, I think it was up in the Have Not room, where he basically let it be known that he knew all about Siri, the competitions that she was in, the Survivor Series that she was in, way too much information to make Siri comfortable. I don't know whether Siri knows that he is Zach Wartenberger's brother from Survivor 42. I don't know if he's let that on, but certainly he's let Siri know that he's a Survivor fan and he knows all about her. I think that's helping make Siri a little bit nervous as well. So Corey's on a lot of people's radar right now. All right, we've got Felicia. I thought this was very interesting. They're thinking about how the HOH is going to work and who wants to be an HOH if you have zero power at all. Felicia is suggesting, remember Felicia said she's watched from season 1, so I think she's got a pretty good thought on this. She's suggesting that the HOH might have the power to pick 2 of the 4 people who are nominees to be the final nominations, or maybe the HOH picks 2 people who then battle it out for a veto or something. Doesn't know, but she thinks the HOH, she keeps saying the HOA, and I don't know if that's intentional or not, but the HOH is somehow going to maybe have some influence over who actually stays on the block, because just because 4 people are up for eviction right now doesn't mean they stay up for eviction. So we'll find out with that. We've got Izzy talking to Jared. She tells Jared that Cameron gives her serial killer vibes. That's never a good sign to be described as a serial killer type person. She mentions it a couple of times. So Izzy maybe isn't really feeling it with Cameron, or at least not feeling the right things with Cameron, because she mentions that. The whispering between Izzy and Jared suggests that maybe these 2 want to work together. Jared and Siri are going to drive me crazy this season because they are very good at whispering. It's tough to follow on the live feeds. Someone's microphone is moving all around, so there was more conversation I just couldn't even follow. But Izzy has told Cameron that. Now here's the kicker, and maybe this is one of the biggest reveals of the evening. Later, Izzy told Jared that she knows that he is Siri's son. I'm not really sure how she knew that. Maybe she is an absolute huge fan of Survivor. Maybe she saw the resemblance. I'm not sure, but apparently Izzy knows. And unfortunately, if Izzy knows, Jared better keep her tight, because otherwise, if she feels like she needs to throw someone under the bus, man, tell everyone that you got a family connection in the house, and that's not going to work well for either of them. So it's to Siri and Jared's benefit that they keep Izzy close, I think, because of that. I am amazed that she knew it. All right, so we've got that. Almost everyone at one point is in the bathroom talking. Because everyone's in there, there's no strategy talk. It's just them getting to know each other. About this point in time, there's people wanting to go to bed. Siri wants to go to bed, but no one wants to be first, which is driving me crazy. But I understand, because I didn't want to be first either during my season. But almost everyone's in the bathroom talking. We've got Siri talking to Jared, telling him that, hey, I think we got you covered, kind of referencing this 4+4 type setup. Again, lots of whispers that I can't really follow at all. Later, the 2 of them are talking about Corey and Cameron both, saying they're just not getting a real good feel from them. They think they're both kind of snaky people, and so they got to watch out for both of them. We've got Felicia. Felicia and Siri are coming in hard playing this game. Felicia's in there reporting to Siri, scheming, talking about what they're going to do. But here's the thing, man, there are no secrets in night 1 of the Big Brother house, because Felicia is, or actually I think, let me get this straight. I think Jared reported to Siri. This may be some of the whispering that I couldn't pick up earlier. Apparently, Jared reported to Siri, who then reports to Felicia about this 5-person alliance that was formed in the gym, which happens to include Kirsten, right? So Jared spilled the beans to Siri and Felicia, so they aren't holding anything against him for that, for being part of it. You don't say no to an alliance if you're asked to join. But they are now very untrustworthy or untrusting of Kirsten and very upset, saying, you know, Kirsten, she was supposed to be with us, this 4 + 4 and all of that. Here she is already forming another alliance of 5. She's got to go. She has to go. I believe that group of 5 formed that alliance before Siri had her conversation with anyone else. But the fact that Kirsten didn't say anything about it, she's playing both ends, which I get it. You do in the house. You can't bank on a single group of people because you never know who's being honest and sincere with you or not. So you try to spread out your connections as much as you can. I get it. The problem is Kirsten's on the block, and if she now has Siri and Felicia not trusting her, and if Siri or Felicia or anyone else goes back to the other group of 5 and tells them that Kirsten's been working with them as well, she could get burned from both directions. So I think Kirsten, as much as I think Corey's in trouble, Kirsten, based on this evening, may be in even more trouble. Again, there's no secrets on night number 1. Don't overcommit because everyone's talking. Oh, it's tough. So now Felicia and Siri both know about it. They're both a little upset, a little concerned. We'll see if they tell Kirsten what they know or if they just keep it under wraps. We got a lot of game to play left. So they are aware of that. And then finally, we've got Jared and Blue touching bases with each other, seeming to be pretty good with each other. Again, there's people. Jared is out trying to make as many connections as he can. He's on the block. He knows that's what needs to be done. So Kirsten not looking so good. I think Jared's in a pretty good position right now, as long as Izzy doesn't spill the beans. With that being said, Siri was ready for bed. She was laying in bed. Whether she's actually going to sleep or not, I don't know. Everyone else in the bathroom. So not a lot of strategy talk. It's late. I'm going to call it because I know it's already a little bit longer than I like to do these recaps. But it's night number 1. There's a lot to talk about. If anything else happens overnight, I'll report it as part of the comments or we'll follow up with it tomorrow. But for now, a fantastic night number 1. We've got an alliance of 5. We've got another 4 who think they're going to grab another 4 to create 8 and add in Jared as well. So 9 and 5 and serial killer vibes and TikTok characters. It was a fun evening. Guys, y'all have a great one. I will be back tomorrow. I'll give you a little more information about what's going on, where I'm at and all of that. But for now, welcome to Big Brother 25 SKD 143. Cheers, my friends. Bye.